Hello, my name is Davor Stankovic and I teach communication. You might ask yourself, what is there to teach? We all know how to communicate. We communicate with each other every day. And you are right, we do communicate every day. Communication is a fundamental part of our daily lives. But to use it effectively, we should be aware of what communication is and how it works. In healthcare communication, understanding the elements of this process is essential to ensure effective and efficient communication that can improve patient outcomes. As you already know, good or bad communication can mean the difference between the patient getting better or getting worse. So, communication can be defined as the process of exchanging information, ideas, or thoughts between two or more people. It can take many forms, some of which are verbal, non-verbal, written, or visual. The communication process involves several elements, including the sender, the message, the channel, the receiver, and feedback. The sender is the person who initiates the message. It can be a healthcare professional, a patient, or a family member. The sender is responsible for encoding the message in a way that the receiver can understand it. Encoding involves choosing the appropriate words, tones, and style to convey the message effectively. In addition to that, the sender must consider the audience's background, knowledge, culture. It all ensures that the message is understood correctly. For example, a doctor who wants to provide a patient with information about their diagnosis or treatment plan must encode the message in a way that the patient can comprehend. The second element of the communication process is the message itself. This refers to the information that the sender is trying to convey to the receiver. In healthcare communication, the message can be related to a variety of topics, such as diagnosis, treatment plan, or medication instructions. It is important for the message to be clear, concise, and accurate to ensure that the receiver can understand and act on the information. For example, a message from a nurse may be about the importance of taking medication at a specific time and with food. So once again, it needs to be clear, concise, and relevant to the receiver. The third element is the channel. The channel is the means through which the message is transmitted. The channel can be such as face-to-face communication, telephone, email, or written materials. In healthcare communication, the medium used will depend on the situation, the type of message, and the preferences of the receiver. For example, a doctor may choose to use face-to-face communication to provide a patient with a diagnosis and discuss their treatment plan, but may use written materials to provide a patient with information about their medications. The next one is the receiver, the person who receives the message. The receiver is responsible for decoding the message and interpreting its meaning. In healthcare communication, the receiver is often a patient, family member, or a caregiver. It is important for the healthcare professional to understand the needs and preferences of the receiver to ensure that the message is effectively received and understood. For example, a healthcare professional may need to adjust their communication style to ensure that a patient who is hard of hearing can understand the information being provided. The final element of the communication process is feedback. It is the response from the receiver to the sender, which can provide information about whether the message was understood and the communication was effective. In healthcare communication, feedback can be provided through verbal communication, nonverbal cues, or by following through on instructions. For example, a patient may provide feedback just by nodding or frowning, or by asking questions about their treatment plan, or by taking their medication as prescribed. Feedback is essential as it ensures that the message was received appropriately and understood by the receiver. Try to think of a communication process as an act of throwing a ball to someone. So, the person throwing the ball is a sender. The person catching a ball is a receiver. We have the ball, the message, and we have the channel, the air, the distance between us. So, first we need to make sure that the receiver is ready and capable of catching the ball, receiving the information. We need to gain attention, look him or her in the eyes. That way, the information will be caught. The sender must be concentrated and precise, and yet again, you can miss. The message can be misunderstood. Luckily enough, when throwing a ball, you have clear feedback. You see whether the ball is caught, and you try again. In communication, things are not always so obvious, so you need to check whether the receiver caught the information. To sum it up, effective communication requires both the sender and the receiver to participate actively in the communication process. However, in healthcare communication, you, as healthcare professionals, have greater responsibility. You need to take this communication wheel in your hands, adjust the speed, and make sure that you and the patient are both on the same track.